Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm back with another video. It's been a few days. It's what day is it? It is March 26, 2026. And the reason I've been lax, you could say, is because I've been mostly flat on my back, either receiving surgery or recovering from it. I had I was diagnosed with a hernia a year and a half ago in Thailand, and I didn't know exactly what I should do about it. So I told a friend of mine who lives in Russia about it, and he said, "Oh, you should come to Russia because I know doctors who can do it, and it's in you'll be well taken care of, and so on and so forth." Well, he's a good friend of mine, so I have every reason to trust him. So he introduced me to this, and he told me that it was going to cost $750. Well, when I got to Russia and actually met his friend, the friend said, "Well, actually, it's going to cost $1,250, which is a lot more." But and he also said, "Well, this condition, you have to consider other factors. You might have a stroke. You may have other problems. We need to check all that out. And but I'm scheduling all the tests for you, and you've got 2 hours to decide." So, and he gave me a kind of invasive examination also, which I didn't appreciate. And I paid a lot more for that than just a consultation, which is all I wanted. So, with just 2 hours to decide, I just thought, the method that he recommends is the less high-tech method. It means it's more invasive surgery than the more modern kind. And there was just too many things that didn't smell right, so I decided to hold off. Well, I came back to Thailand, and I visited. I visited another hospital that I've gone to for years. It's a private hospital, but it's not a prestige hospital. It's a good hospital, but it's not a prestige hospital, which means that you don't. It's not where you're going to pay premium prices for superior service, that sort of thing. But you get decent care. And so I asked the guy, I asked the surgeon. I had a meeting with the surgeon, and I was charged. I think it was about $15 for the consultation, as opposed to the Russian guy who I had to pay about $60. And so he said, "Yeah, we can do this. We can do it right now if you want to." And I said, "Well, please let me know exactly how much it's going to cost." So he gave me a rough figure for it. Then I went to another hospital, which is also in my city in Chiang Mai. And I won't mention any names so that I don't get sued by these people, but I'm making a comparison between public and private hospitals. So I talked with this other guy. I went to this other hospital because I thought, maybe that hospital got a good reputation. So I went there, and they said, "Yeah, you've got this. You definitely have a hernia. Yes, we can definitely take care of it. We can take care of it today if you want to." And I said, "Okay, well, I guess I'll do that." So, I signed some forms, and they said, "Well, we need a deposit of 50,000 Thai baht, which is roughly maybe $1,700, something like that." And between 1,500 and 1,700 US dollars. So they said, "Okay, now we're going to have to, take some tests to make sure that you're capable of withstanding surgery." And so they gave me an EKG. I signed. Did I get the EKG? They signed me up for some preliminary tests. Let's put it that way. And so I got the preliminary tests, and then they said, "Okay, now you have to sign the final consent form." And so they signed. So I say, "Okay, well, can you give me an estimate of how much it's going to cost?" "Well, it's going to be somewhere between 60,000 and 80,000 Thai baht, which works out to be $2,000 to $2,700, something like that." And I just thought, I said, can you give me a definitive, definitive figure in writing? I'm sorry, we can't do that. I said, fine, give me my money back. I walked out the door. So then I thought, okay, that's it. So I'm going to go to the public hospital here in Chiang Mai. It's called the Maharaj Hospital. It's associated with the Chiang Mai University Medical School. So they train doctors here in Thailand, and at this medical school. And I went to see them. I scheduled an appointment. And the thing is, with Maharaj, they are serving literally probably thousands of people a day, because their costs are far lower than the other hospitals. And as I'll get to a little bit later on, there's a reason for that. So I met the surgeon, and they said, yeah, you've got this issue, and there's some other issues you may need to think about, but we can schedule for it, but your condition is not, it's not like an immediate problem. The kind of condition I have, it was a hernia, and if you don't treat it and you do all the wrong things, what it amounts to is that some tissue from your intestines gets cut off from its blood supply, which results in a very serious situation. And but they said, apparently you don't have any pain to speak of, and you don't really have a problem. So there's other people in the queue, that have far more serious problems, and so we're going to have to, put you in the waiting list for 6 months. And I thought, 6 months is kind of a long time, but what the heck? So I went to, and they told me what they thought it would cost, which was about, they said maybe 50 or 60,000 Thai baht. So I waited and waited and waited, and then I got a preliminary appointment to see, if I still needed it or wanted it. I said, yes, I do. And they said at the time, well, we actually can move your date of surgery up from April to March. So I thought, well, that's great. I can, I can get it sooner. So I went in on Monday, and the place, this Maharaj Hospital is a huge hospital, and it actually has 2 other hospitals associated with it. There's a Sripat Medical Center, and there's Swandok Hospital. So and they're all kind of linked to each other. So just finding my way around in this place is not easy, especially since my knowledge of Thai is not great. If I could say close to non-existent, better than non-existent, but not great. And so I showed this paper to somebody, and I'm in the hallway. I don't know where I am. I show this paper to some guy. He says, okay, come with me. And they take me where I need to go. People are very helpful that way. So they take me to the place where I'm supposed to have the surgery. And what I opted for was the no frills plan, which means that I could have opted for the private room accommodations, which would have cost an extra $150 a day. And I just thought, I'm only going to be in there for a couple of days. I don't need luxury. I just want my problem solved, So they, so I ended up in this ward with, in a room with 6, I guess 5 other Thai guys. I'm the only foreigner there. They were all surprised to see me because, foreigners usually don't go to this hospital. They go to the prestigious hospitals. And they were asking me, various questions, that, to get my medical background and things like that. And so, and with this one young man who did speak some English, and because I have a phone app where you can speak into the phone and then it translated into the language that you needed translated into, I could do that. So they all kind of understood, and everything was fine. And then so I went there at about 8:30 in the morning, and by 11:30 in the morning, I was pretty much through that process, and then I was just waiting around, for the rest of the day. So there I was in the room. I'm on the hospital bed in the medical ward, and then I have basically not much else to do. So I just checked my. I read some of my. I brought along this Buddhist text that I haven't read in 30 years. It's maybe 40 years since I've had this book for 40 years. And it was one of the first books that I read. And I thought, okay, well, here I am. I've got nothing else to do. This is the best thing to do. And it's small, it fits just like a pocketbook. So, so I was, I read some of that. And then I actually meditated in bed, which may have looked a little strange to people. I don't know, but there I was. And then they served me dinner, which was, they said, do you have any special diet? Do you want American food or Thai? I said, no, just give me the basics, whatever's easy. And I said, just as long as it's not spicy, because Thai food can be very, very spicy. So, and I don't want pork, so, or beef. Just chicken or fish is okay, but or tofu, whatever. So they brought this dinner, which was pretty spare actually, but it didn't matter because I didn't want it. I didn't want to eat that much because I'm going to have surgery the next day. So that was that. And then, I went to sleep and I got up. I woke up at about 6 o'clock in the morning, I think. And they told me that about 8 o'clock they would take me to the waiting room. So there I was at 8 o'clock and nothing happened. And then it was 9 o'clock and finally they showed up and, they put, the tubes into your arm for a catheter, to pump liquid into your body because you're not supposed to be, drinking or taking any food before surgery. So there I was. And then I guess I waited. I thought it was going to be done at about 10 in the morning, but it took much longer for whatever reason. And by the time, I think it was like around noon, they had me wheeled into the operating room. And I saw this, this doctor, and there's all these people running around. I feel, there's so much attention being paid to this lump, as they say in Zen, this lump of red flesh. So I'm on the operating table. They put a mask over my mouth. They say, this is oxygen, breathe it in. And, gone, I'm gone. And then about 2 hours later, I wake up and I'm not feeling really great, but they take me back to my room, back to the ward, and I'm feeling really bad. I could barely even stand without keeling over and fainting. This is a procedure where they go into your stomach muscles. They cut through your stomach muscles to get inside into your actual internal organs. And so that was I think it was a major shock to my body. It was like getting 3 bullets, in your stomach. But of course, it's not. There's nothing. There's not a bullet, but it's a piercing into your stomach, and your body's going to react to that. So when I got out, I was in serious pain. I could hardly even move. I couldn't. My muscles were in such shock that I couldn't even sit up. I needed somebody to pull me up. I was a complete invalid, and then there were other problems that were, my body was in shock. Various, you could say, excretory functions were not working, and that needed to be taken care of, which was extremely unpleasant. But that was around midnight, and then I got up. I woke up the next morning, and I was actually feeling somewhat better. So I saw the resident, not the actual surgeon, but the resident who was checking on the patients. And he said, let's see, how are you doing? And I told him, and my blood pressure was, it was high, but not super high. And he said, yeah, you can go home today. So that's like I was in for, they're sending me home like literally, it was almost 12 hours after my operation. So I said, okay. And, I contacted a friend of mine, really good friend of mine here in Chiang Mai, to arrange to pick me up. So he and his friend who has a car picked me up. And then I was waiting for, I said, I told them I planned to leave by around 3 o'clock. But the thing is, here's the thing about Maharaj. They are serving so many people that there's enormous amounts of paperwork and bureaucracy that need to be negotiated with. And as a result, it took maybe almost an hour longer actually to get my final. They gave me some medications which I didn't really need or want, and I don't expect that I'll use them. Painkillers, which I don't. I'm using one anti-inflammatory, which is supposed to be better than what is called a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, kind of like ibuprofen, but it's supposed to be less irritating than ibuprofen. And they gave me some other stuff, to kind of make it easier for me to excrete. And but my friend had to find me, and because this hospital complex is so big and there's so many side streets and so many entrances that it's really difficult to find. And even on Google Maps, on Google Maps there's supposed to be a share function. So he said, Eric, just give me the coordinates of where you are and send it to me in WhatsApp, and then we'll know exactly where you are. But I couldn't get the coordinates, and I couldn't get the sharing functions. So I took a photo of the street, and I was, at that point, I felt ambulatory enough that I could take my little backpack with, maybe it weighed about, I don't know, 8 pounds, something like that, not too heavy. And so I walked out onto the main street with a big sign, and so they were able to find me. But here's the thing. They presented me with a bill, and I was expecting it to be close to maybe $2,700, something like that. And the bill ended up being around $1,300, which was, and if I had gone to one of these private hospitals, and this is for the best type of procedure with the best materials. So my Russian friend, I asked him, is this a public hospital or a private hospital? He says, this doctor is a private doctor. And I could kind of tell that he was motivated by the profit motive, not necessarily for my own benefit. I asked him about the procedure. He said, my low-tech procedure is better than the high-tech procedure, which is probably not true. And so when I went to Maharaj and I asked them their opinion, and I asked other doctors, they say, no, you want the least invasive type of surgery, because they're not going to be cutting through your stomach wall to get to where they need to go. It's just a little hole, and they stick the tools that they use to repair. And so it's not as invasive as the older kind. And yet this guy was telling me that it's in my interest to get the older kind. Now it turns out that if I had gotten the older kind of surgery here in Thailand at a private hospital, it would have cost probably about the same as what it would cost in Russia. But at the public hospital, it would probably cost less, maybe half as much. So, but I wanted to get the better procedure. So the bottom line was that this whole thing cost me about $1,300, which is around a 60% savings from what it would cost at a private hospital. And so I did a search, and I said, I went to, an AI, and I said, why is it that this Maharaj hospital is so much cheaper than the private hospitals? And they said the reason for that is because it's a public hospital It gets government subsidies. It's associated with the university medical school. So you know that the care you're getting is as good as it can get. And it's considered to be a service to the Thai population. It's not catering to the more wealthy foreigners who can go to other hospitals that are far more expensive. So the disadvantage was that I had to wait 6 months. But the advantage was that I went to a hospital. I got the basic no frills treatment. I don't need fancy meals. I don't need, a beautiful room with a view, that sort of thing. I just need to get my problem fixed. So I was very happy with the decision that I made. And the AI, I think accurately said that this is a nonprofit hospital, and their outcomes are based on results for the patients without a profit motive. This is so important. As soon as money gets involved, corruption happens. People want to get more. They get greedy. They make up reasons for charging you more money than is necessary. And this public hospital system, there's no motivation to do that. So I'm just, recording this just to give you a little bit of an example of how public medicine in Thailand, and certainly probably in many other countries, will cost a lot less when money and profit are not involved. So that's what I wanted to say here. And, I was very happy with the people, the service I got. The people were all very, very nice to me, and accommodated the fact that I don't speak the language, as well as Thai, certainly as well as Thai people. And I feel, this is, that was on Tuesday that I got the operation. It's now about 2 days after the operation is finished. And yeah, there is some pain, but everything else is starting to work pretty normally. And it's not so serious. The pain is not so serious. And, I am still tired. I'm planning on taking about probably a week to get some energy back. And they also told me that I can't exercise, do any kind of heavy exercise for a month, but that's to be expected no matter where you are. So that is the story of my experience of for-profit versus nonprofit medicine. And I do not understand why it serves the U.S. government, does not serve the role of the government in becoming and being a competitive country with other countries if they can't even take care of the health of their own people. If the health of their own people is subservient to profit, what have you got? What kind of a society do you have? And this whole profit motive really is insidious, and it infects everything. And we really need to get that out of, public health and public well-being should not be based on sending money up to big for-profit corporations. So that's what I got to say here. So thanks again for listening. Please support my channel if you found this useful. If you need some serious medical attention, there's something called medical tourism where you can actually, go to Thailand. And even if you go to Thailand or India or Turkey or China or Vietnam, you can get just quality medical care for probably, half as much as it would cost in the United States. So yeah, you'd have to pay for it. Probably you'll have to pay for it out of pocket, but because U.S. insurers may not pay for it. But it still may be worth it. And the other thing is that you can take a trip to an exotic country and enjoy some time there. If you decide to stay for like 3 weeks in Thailand, the first week you go there and you get this whatever procedure you need done, and then you can go off and and enjoy life in in an exotic foreign country. What could be better than that for the same cost that you're paying a hospital in the United States? So that's that. Thanks again for listening. Please support my channel with a like or a donation if you'd like. And I'll talk with you soon.